It has been an absolute privilege over the course of the last couple months to report to you all the health of our community, our movement. And what I mean by that is firearms ownership is up through the roof. Same thing with ownership in minorities and women, way up. Membership in Second Amendment organizations is through the roof. And we have been experiencing an unprecedented period of legislative and litigative wins nearly across the board. It's a great time to be a Second Amendment advocate, and I thank you guys very much for putting me where you have. That said, I think that it seems like we're always on defense, right? Like, it's always somebody did something to us and then we have to react to it, and that's how we usually gain our wins, right? Or at least it seems like that's how most of the time it happens. Well, I think that we're on the precipice of being able to go back on offense and roll back some of the things that have been done to us over the years. I feel like we're right there, but we have to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves. And I think I've got an example of where we might have the potential to overextend ourselves, and I want to share it with you here today while I'm on my break time. But before we do, guys, I got to pay the bills. So we need to hear a quick word from today's sponsor.
Kentuckiana Gunworks is best known for their research and development into lubrication technology. Personally, I'm an oil guy, and thus I gravitate towards their enhanced reliability oil, and we have a full video testing that product if you want some specifics. But what I want to emphasize today is that they are holding an Independence Day sale, and the VSO discount code also stacks with that sale. So if you're looking to stock up, then head over their way and let them know I sent you. Special thanks to them for making today's video possible.
The most recent prolific win that we have received is the vacation of the frame and receiver rule at the district court level. If you aren't tracking on that, I have a full video where we talked about that particular thing. To catch yourself up to speed, will be linked in all the relevant places. And this is a fantastic development because what this says is uniform application of logic across the board for all the executive agencies. Hey, you've been given a clear mandate by Congress that says, hey, regulate these things this way. That does not mean that due to whatever political expediency or political pressure your boss at the executive branch wants to exert upon you, does not mean that you can just suddenly redefine what things mean to be able to classify things that that particular executive wants to go after. So basically, to restate it is, hey, if you want to be able to regulate new things, you got to go directly to Congress and get their buy-in. They need to pass a law that says you can regulate these particular things this particular way. So that is a huge win for us because we know that this executive fiat that we have been experiencing for the last several years has been something that has run rampant in a direction that we don't want it to do. And it applies not only in the Second Amendment community, but across the board to other areas of everyday life in America. This is, of course, also really good news for companies that dealt in we'll just use the term 80% receivers and things like that, things that are not quite receivers, but are on their way to becoming receivers, but have not met the legal threshold of being a receiver. So therefore, can it or can it be regulated, that sort of thing. And of course, this was cited on the side of freedom. However, recently, there was a lawsuit filed by Philadelphia against 80% manufacturers, and what we currently have in place is an act called the PLCAA, the Protection and Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And you've heard this cited by particular unscrupulous politicians that want to say that firearms manufacturers are given blanket immunity and that they can't be sued. They can't be sued if somebody buys a thing and uses it illegally. You can't sue a wrench manufacturer if somebody bought a pipe wrench and went around and started smacking people in the head on the street with it. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And that's what the crux of the PLCAA was enacted for. And you should be familiar with that act. It's a pretty easy read. It's relatively short, and it's written in common tongue, so to speak. It's not written really in legalese, so it's a pretty easy read. You should be familiar with what it says in there. However, it pertains to very specific definitions of what is and is not protected and specifically it has to do with arms dealers and manufacturers, as well as component manufacturers. A couple days ago, the city of Philadelphia filed suit against a couple of those 80% manufacturers. And I need your guys' help here, because I think, unfortunately, I may have uncovered the new attack angle. Let me know if I'm tracking right. So we have the PLCAA that says that you cannot frivolously sue arms manufacturers, dealers, component manufacturers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But we also have a court that says that those items are not regulable arms. They are not firearms. They are essentially raw materials on their way to become firearms. So much so that you gotta go to Congress to get the authority to be able to mess with them. So is the new attack angle, hey, those 80% receivers are definitively not arms. So because they are not arms, you are not engaged in the business of lawful commerce in arms, and those items are no longer under the protections of the PLCAA. I don't know, but I look at those two sides of it and I think, oh boy, did we just push ourselves over the edge, win in one category very substantially, I might add, only to shoot ourselves in the foot or shoot some of our friends in the foot by getting a definitive on whether or not the government under the current regulations can regulate particular items as arms, when our argument is definitively that they are not arms yet. I don't know. And that's what I want to know from you guys, because I see these two pieces of logic and I cannot reconcile them on whether they play together or not. Thank you guys for watching today. Love to hear from you in the comments, and we'll see you on a future video here, hopefully soon. And I think I might take the weekend off. Nah, who am I kidding? I've got an entire pile of testing to get through.